So tomorrow, starting tomorrow for the rest of the weekend, I'm going to put my book, Metadimensional, for free on Amazon, 3-day promotion. So if you are thinking about reading it one day, today, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are good days to keep it, like, to get it and then read it whenever you want. Yeah, so a theory like mine, segmented aspects, and in my book, Metadimensional. So it's weird. I understand it's weird. And it's hard to understand because it's weird. Because you're not used to thinking about these things like that. You used to think about it in a different way. Now, there's the thing about being weird, is that weird is the category. And you get lumped with everything else that's weird. And there are other things that are weird. Especially when it comes to what people usually call consciousness, what I call experience. There are things that experience is capable of perceiving that defy what we think is the laws of nature, physics. Specifically, there are two weird things that are common, commonly associated with that's consciousness, but in this also, let's say, experience, perception. And these are things that when someone is capable of perceiving things that they should not be able to perceive. One of them, usually there's telepathy, but I will keep that aside. There is, for example, remote viewing. That's something that I think both during the Cold War, both Russia and the U.S. were investigating this, trying to figure out whether they can use remote viewing, the ability to view things, structures, enemy installations beyond enemy lines without actually being there. And whether they actually achieved this or not is debatable. I don't have any first-hand knowledge to confirm it. But I do know that this comes also, there's a different type of viewing things that you shouldn't be able to view. For example, there are accounts of people that after taking psychedelics were able to see through things that they shouldn't be able to see through, something like that. Whether it's walls or into someone's body, or it's all the same idea. You're able to perceive, or someone able to perceive things that they shouldn't, according to the laws of nature, or according to what we know. So there's a lot of speculations about how that's possible. But this becomes really I don't know whether that actually happens or not, because I haven't perceived it, I haven't seen it again. But I do know that in segmented aspects, this isn't a complex thing to explain. So I take this with a grain of salt, because I don't know if this actually happens. But if it does, then it's really simple. How? Well, go back to my video game analogy or metaphor. So you are the reality you perceive is like the screen of let's say of an arcade machine, a video game. You have like the screen, you're watching it, and then there's a machine behind it, the computer, and it generates everything you perceive. And that machine is yours. That's your computer. That's your game machine, and it produces everything in reality, in the game reality, in the game world for you. Now that computer is yours. It's not someone else's. It's completely devoted to you, to producing a perception for you. It is, you call it the universe, the physical universe. For it, it's just producing a concoction, producing perception for you. producing 3D graphics for you. Okay? Now, so this computer is yours, and you are able to perceive exactly what the game lets you perceive from the game world. But that's not because there's a limitation on you perceiving. It's impossible for you to perceive more. It's simply the game is configured to show you that. But that can change. You can perceive everything. That game, that machine, that computer, it's yours. It's in the analogy. This is your body. This is your, what I call, body space. It's your own personal universe. No one else is there. You are the only one perceiving it, and every other person has its own machine, has its own game machine, its own computer, its own universe, and you are completely within your. You have all the authority necessary to perceive everything in that machine. It's simply that evolutionary forces have determined that what you perceive during wakefulness, that's the ideal configuration of what I call the identification threshold, of what you can identify, what you can perceive from that machine, that computer, that you use to perceive your reality. And it changes. For example, the identification threshold changes. For example, when you're focused, then you perceive less. There's a famous experiment where you can see it. You can find it online. A gorilla like running around the screen while you are counting basketball passes, and you don't see the gorilla because you are so focused on the basketball passes. The same applies here. When the identification threshold shrinks, you perceive less when you're focused. And when you perceive less, you have less to interact with reality, and time passes more quickly. You have less friction with reality, let's say it this way, but ignore that. When the identification threshold expands, you see more of what is producing your perception. And it is completely within you have complete access, like authority. This is your machine, this is your game, and if you find a way to skew the machine, to skew the identification, to create an identification skew so that you perceive things that aren't usually there, then you perceive it. It's your computer that you perceive. You're not perceiving someone else's, and that's the thing. So yes, you can perceive anything you want, and this is inside your computer. This is inside your body. It can produce like the sights of people and of locations. Then your body knows everything about those locations already, and you can access it. What you cannot access is the way in which other experiential agents like you would change reality, because you don't have access to that unless you reconcile. And when you reconcile, then your accounts become one. And that includes also your identification threshold. That includes that you will perceive normal stuff, like everything will come back to normal. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to come back to normal. If, for example, let's say you spike everyone's water, and everyone is now hallucinating, then the reality they all hallucinate becomes, under this understanding of reality, becomes the only reality there is. And then the laws of nature, as they perceive it, change, and they can interact with each other, using a different set of laws of nature. Then again, when they eventually reconcile with the rest of humanity, all of that would reconcile and disappear, and normality will be restored.